It's a book I've written based on my experience with scaling N26 here in Berlin. I joined N26 with around 300 people, and then we scaled it to 1,500 in 2 years. So massive, massive scale-up story.
How is Berlin becoming the deep tech and impact Europe's powerhouse?
We have a couple of challenges in Berlin. One is the ecosystem is very large. So one thing we need to create together is density. More people in the same space at the same time. And then the magic starts to happen. Are we bold enough? There is a crisis of ambition in Europe and in Germany. I think we should act more collaborative. There is still too often the sentence, what's in it for me? We still do have the challenge in Germany and Europe that we are undercapitalized. What we now need to do as Europeans, we need to reconnect with this innovation lineage, with this deep tech innovation lineage, launching a new kind of deep tech renaissance.
So this is a call for all the rich families in Europe.
Exactly, yeah.
The deep tech scene needs you.
Is deep tech going to fix the world or just fund the next wave of elite founders?
Hello one and all, welcome to Unboxing the Future. I'm your host, Iva the Machine.
And I'm Iva Jankovic.
Berlin has always reinvented itself. To talk only about the last decades, it has gone from playground for artists and hackers to the capital of tech and science. With talent, innovation, and investment in place, how is Berlin becoming Europe's deep tech and impact powerhouse? Well, that's the topic we're gonna be unboxing today with our special guest.
And our guest today, he is an author, a CEO, an investor, and a master of scaling. Using deep tech, building the deep tech ecosystem as a North Star for Europe to regain its independence is solving some of the world's biggest challenges. Please welcome Martin Schilling.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, Diego. Thanks, Olivia.
Very happy to have you.
It's a big pleasure to have you. Martin, we always ask our guests to bring an object that represents them professionally. Which object did you bring and what is the story behind?
Yeah, sure. Hey, look, my object is a book. It's called The Builder's Guide to the Tech Galaxy. It's a book I've written based on my experience with scaling N26 here in Berlin. Yeah? So I joined N26 with around 300 FTE, 300 people, and then we scaled it to 1,500 in 2 years. So massive, massive scale-up story. Obviously, we made a lot of errors in this, and I've written this book to help others build unicorns. Yeah, so literally you have a tech startup with some kind of product market fit and you now want to massively scale it. And that's the book I've written with my co-author Thomas and 100 experts.
Amazing. And it made me think like, is this learnings applicable to other businesses or situations?
It's certainly applicable for tech startups. So what the interesting thing I discovered, I've written this for a medium-sized company scaling to a really large one, the N26 case. I have just created another early-stage startup, and many of these lessons actually apply to. So that's kind of, so it's literally a book I would have loved to have when I had been in the position. And today's almost a joke when my colleagues ask me, hey, what do you think about this? Then it's almost like a running it. Yeah, where do you think you need to look?
Which chapter should I go? Right? By the way, if we would ChatGPT it now and point it out like the 3 biggest learnings this book brings to anyone, which would be?
Yeah, I would say 3. So first, try creating and flying with a super clear North Star. Yeah, so the idea that you can wake up your team in the middle of the night and everybody tells you the same North Star. It's a very, very powerful thing. Yeah, I've written a chapter. I'm actually working on a second book only on this one. So how to create a crystal clear North Star. The second is fly, hire, and retain a AAA team. Easy said, difficult to do, in particular in these scale-up phases where you need people with experiences or the ability to understand scaling. That would be certainly 2. And the third is around growth capital, how to acquire growth capital.
Okay, me as an ordinary human being, I'm going to try to see if I understood. So the first one, if I understood correct, it's super powerful and I'm super into it. And we talk about also a lot in our team. So the idea is how to keep everyone in sync, like synchronized and having the same vision and goal.
Yeah.
It's correct? Is that?
Yeah, and not only goal. Goal is certainly correct. But so North Star means first you're clear on purpose. Why are you doing what you're doing? It's not only the what and the how, it's the why. That's one element of it. 2 goals. So what's literally your ambition level and where do you want to go? And then the third is around literally the what and how you operationalize this for the team. So there's a whole package of a North Star, how you design it.
And then the second one...
AAA team?
Yeah, it's in one hand to form a team of very professional, good, like positive adjectives would go in this space, and then how to keep them together. Is that correct?
Yeah. So there are a couple of nuances to this, but this focus on building a world-class team and really investing effort is key. So you have often the situation you are under pressure. For example, N26, you told me before you were customers, yeah?
Still are.
And you are still customers.
Yeah.
So you have money with N26.
Yeah.
So, and there are situations where maybe you cannot access your money. So customers get very quickly very nervous. So when I joined, we were in a situation, we were growing very fast and we did not have enough capacity to get all the customer requests handled. And so you're really under pressure. There's a fire burning. And then in this situation, you let the fire burn and first hire the firemen and women to extinguish the fire rather than going to the fire and extinguish it yourself. It's a critical thing. Because if you do this, getting these AAA people in and not compromising on people quality, this will just massively level you up in the medium and long term.
Okay.
But it's very easy to say. But there is literally, you imagine you're in a burning flat and you let the fire burn because you first need to call the firemen and people outside to...
Which is the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do, but still, when now in our company, same thing. We had just... when we record this last week, we had a large bootcamp and we as well were under pressure to get this done. But same principle applied. Rather than compromising on team, we first hired a really, really good team to deliver this. Although we've already seen, okay, there are things now really you need to move for this big bootcamp. So that's always the challenge.
It might sound very naive, but why wait the fire to burn to hire? It's because there's...
Good question. We are in the startup world, we are masters of speed. This is the reason why we exist. We can very fast build companies. We have to be able to be masters of speed. And I'm talking here about a specific class of startups, in particular venture finance startups, which have to grow fast. And if you work at this pace, there's always fires. Yeah. If you don't have fires, it's almost like
you're not doing anything. Okay, yeah. So I could imagine that you cannot prevent every fire that's going to happen, right? And then the third one was the most complicated to grasp. Can you please repeat it?
So this is about how you capitalize your company, how you get enough money, ensure that you have enough money in the banks so that you can actually fly with this AAA team. And this is, we still do have the challenge in Germany and Europe that we are undercapitalized compared to the UK, to the US, even to France. So this is still a topic. Many say we have a problem in particular Germany and Western Europe with growth capital, which is correct. It's very difficult to get the large checks. If you need 50, 100 million checks, very difficult to get in Europe. And many say early stage is fine. I see this differently. Early stage is still undercapitalized. So it's easier if you're building a company in France or in the UK, it's easier to get early stage capital. And in this phase, your company is like a raw egg. So it can crash any moment, or you can as well see it as a rocket. You're shooting a rocket into the orbit. And this is called escape velocity. So you need to burn so much fuel and reach so much height that you actually then circle effortless around the Earth. But getting there is very, very effortful. And in this phase, the rocket can explode at any moment. And you need the money is the fuel to get you in the orbit. And it's difficult to get the fuel. Yeah.
And you have tactics to get the money. I guess that's part of the book, like how to get this financial in place.
And how to negotiate term sheets and do this.
Yeah, it sounds very, very interesting. Yeah. I'm gonna definitely go for it.
It's not a bedtime lecture, so it's not like Harry Potter, which you can just read. So it's more
a geek, a hard knock book.
Yeah, exactly.
Roll your sleeves and get to work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. Can you make a sound with it, Martin?
With a book?
Yeah.
Sure.
Amazing. So what we're gonna do now is that I'm gonna build electronic bases here for us to jam on top. I'm gonna do it using mostly the sounds of my body and voice, and then you and Iva are gonna join me.
Yeah, sure.
So let's put the headphones. You can join me. One, two, three, four. Shh. Yeah, Martin.
Nice.
Pretty good, man.
Very well done. Thanks, Diego. Wow, it's always such a good refreshment to start with a bit of beats and a bit of jam
Yeah,
on top of it.
totally.
Thanks for joining.
Sure, cool. And you're doing this from big stages, I heard, yeah, with thousands of people.
Yeah, that's
We-
the idea.
He does it everywhere. Martin, so we're so happy to have you, and I want to start with a couple of questions about the future. So let me start with the first one. Is Deep Tech going to fix the world or just fund the next wave of elite founders?
Ideally, both.
Yeah?
I think you're talking about deep tech and impact, and this actually goes together quite well. Yeah, so many of the deep tech innovations will have massive positive impact on the world. For example, fusion. Yeah, so fusion energy. At Deep Tech Momentum, we had the two most important fusion founders of Europe, Marvel Fusion and Proxima Fusion. And fusion, this means literally we unleash the power of the sun on Earth, yeah, without a lot of radioactive waste. Yeah? So literally we have a almost carbon-free, infinite energy source. If we get this going as civilization, this will be a massive, massive game changer for solving climate change. Yeah? So that's one example. I would as well say what we're doing in space, it's really important that we become a spacefaring humanity. One can debate this as well. So I do think that this will massively make us all better and elevate us, while as well creating some elite founders. Why not?
True. I mean, very well said.
Yeah.
Maybe as you are such an expert within this overall subject of deep tech, can you say what deep tech really is?
Yeah. Deep tech, in our definition, are technologies that have a very high technical risk. Again, to fusion, if you solve fusion, there is almost no market risk. You will be able to sell very cheap, abundant energy, of course, to the grid, to the world. But there's a very high technical risk. It's very difficult to get this done. And so it's not like the typical Berlin startup. You can just launch an MVP, just get the stuff out, and then iterate on it. This is often not possible. Like ESA Aerospace, another good example, a space company. They're launching a rocket. You cannot just launch the MVP of the rocket. You really need to ensure that the thing flies. And then it will still fail 3 or 4 or 5 times before you go to orbit. So there is often a lot of technical risks, but not so much market risk if you solve the technical one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very interesting answer. We have heard different things, and it's still among us, we're still like, oh, but this is deep tech, this is not deep tech. So yeah, it's a very interesting one.
There is a blurry line.
Yes.
Usually, deep tech requires specifically long development cycles and a lot of capital. Yeah, and there is a B2B SaaS, business to business, software as a service gray line, because if you have artificial intelligence, many are as well B2B SaaS companies that literally then are more in the classical B2B world. So there is a gray area which morphs into deep tech.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
Martin, I wonder if Europe is bold enough to lead the deep tech wave, or are we still investing with the handbrakes on?
Yeah. Hey, look, this is a very good question. Are we bold enough? There is a crisis of ambition in Europe and in Germany. And literally, I recognize this in myself. It's very interesting. I just made a fundraise, a successful one. And I was talking as well with US investors. And they almost all tell me, hey, interesting how you pitch this. Someone from Silicon Valley would pitch this very differently, far bolder. So there is something in many of us, including myself, there's a certain modesty, a certain, hey, if I promise something, I will deliver this. I rather under-promise and over-deliver. This mentality is a very, maybe European, certainly German one, but it's often not helping when you're building these large companies. So getting over this crisis of ambition is important.
And also, I guess that, so let me comment on this because I personally love that, right? Under promise, over deliver. And somehow I'm bothered by the over promise, whatever deliver the North Americans have, for example, right? So I think, yeah, I understand that the drive, I think, is the word. No, the drive, it's important for this to happen. But I guess like that we have different issues, right? Like, for example, not being connected, the ecosystem is one of them, right? What is your take on that? Because I guess Europe's problem is not just a matter of lack of drive, but also functioning as a one ecosystem. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I think these are two things. One is a bit of a crisis of collaboration. That's what you're now referring to. The other is crisis of ambition. And I would not say this is a lack of drive. We have a lot of people very driven, working super hard, really pushing it. The question is more, are we ambitious enough? Is the bar high enough? And the counter argument to, hey, I'd rather under-promise and over-deliver is, if you put the bar really, really high, you will jump higher. So Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, you can criticize them for a lot. But putting the bar really high made them and their teams achieve amazing things. We're seeing SpaceX, again, we're back to rockets. This would not have been possible with a really, really high bar. And thinking that you can actually do it. We talked about N26, same thing here, by the way. The idea to start, hey, I'm able to start a bank. It's Deutsche Bank, Sparkasse. I'm able, as literally young founder, I'm able to build a bank. This idea is powerful.
Yeah.
And I would encourage us to be bolder in the ideas.
Yeah, that totally.
But are we talking about lack of confidence or?
It's a good question. I think it's deeply ingrained in the culture. That there is this, now I'm not talking about, I'm German, so I'm talking about Germany, there's this topic about we are reliable. Yeah. So if I say something to you, I deliver to you. Yeah? This is a very deep rooted thing in the German culture.
Which is beautiful, by the way.
Which is good. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So you can rely on us. Yeah. But if you're building something, you need to, we're back to North Star. If the bar is really high, you will jump higher.
Yeah, you push everybody together, right? You need to end up pushing the whole team.
Yeah, and in this series, you're talking about we want to become the capital city of deep tech and impact. So that's great. So there is as well, when we, for example, Franziska Giffey says this always nicely, we want to be #1 innovation location of Europe. Yeah, that's great because it's ambition. And then we can live up to the ambition.
Yeah, I understand what I mean. And that's a very good connection to the next question, which is the biggest question of the season. It seems that Berlin has the talent, the innovation, and the investment in place. So how is Berlin becoming the deep tech and impact Europe's powerhouse?
Now, to your second point, collaboration. We have a couple of challenges in Berlin. One is we are so large. Yes, the ecosystem is very large. So one thing we need to create together is density. Yeah, so this means more people in the same space at the same time. And then the magic starts to happen. We have too much different events, platforms, logics, companies. It's too dispersed. And this is, by the way, a general problem in Western Europe compared, for example, to Silicon Valley or to some of the Chinese hubs. We're too decentralized. That's, by the way, one reason why we do Deep Tech Momentum. A bootcamp, 2-3 day bootcamp, it's density of talent on everybody, same place, same time. Yeah, so that's kind of certainly one. Yeah.
So you think that Berlin has the ingredients, what is missing is to get everybody on board, all the stakeholders in one page, in the same page?
We do not yet have all ingredients.
And which ingredients you think is missing?
So I think as well we should be clear on our strengths, but as well recognize where we're not yet there.
For sure.
So we have not yet a technical university at par with Cambridge and Oxford. And would love us to build this. This can be a technical university. We have IHA, TU, FU, which is great. But as well, it can be the extra research institutes such as Max Planck, etc. We're strong in this. So we do have some basis of this, but the translation, the transfer of research ideas into companies is still not yet there. And one reason is because the incentives and the mindsets within the university, in my opinion, in my perspective, are not yet 100% there. So if the Senate would say, hey, if you're in a university in Berlin, you will get far more money if you're creating startups and you're spinning out companies and you're measured by spinning out companies. That would be one ingredient which you need to get along. That's one. Second is certainly capital. I would love us in Berlin to say the finance situation is best in Germany or even Europe. So this means, for example, if you're raising an angel round, with public money, we will top this up. So France has a good scheme on this. Literally, you're raising 400,000 in private money, and then the States tops you up with 400K. There's some Bundesländer, some regions in Germany already starting to do this. If we, for example, in Berlin would think about this, that would be amazing.
Interesting, very interesting.
So I wanna, you already mentioned Deep Tech Momentum. So I just wanna ask you, what is Deep Tech Momentum and what real impact does it have on Berlin or in Europe's ecosystem?
So Deep Tech Momentum is a marketplace, Europe's leading deep tech marketplace for capital and customers. That's how we structure it. It's built around a large bootcamp. So imagine 1,500 people. We did it last week on one place to trigger funding in deep tech and customer relationships. And customers are in particular relevant. So you go there as a deep tech founder. For example, we stay in the space vertical. Daniel Metzler, for example, ESA Aerospace was there, and literally all the leading new space founders were there last week in Berlin. And you leverage this to prepare your next fundraising with investors, but in particular as well to talk to customers. So you talk to the industry, you talk to public sector, and that's, by the way, a really strength we're having here. So the government is here. Berlin is the capital city. So, and if you want to influence policy and maybe win the state as customer, this is a great place to do this. Yeah, so this is why we're building this bootcamp. That's literally one core of it. But we're building a digital marketplace around it where you can acquire customers, and we're building a financial arm. So it's a whole ecosystem for deep tech innovation in Europe.
Amazing. Yeah. And how well is it connected with other European ecosystems?
So this is a pan-European initiative. That's very important for me. So we're building this from Berlin for Europe. Yeah. So, and this, to your point, we have to act as one ecosystem in Europe. We don't have one language. We don't have yet one complete market like in the States. We need to invest more in the ecosystem. That's why these kind of initiatives, I believe, are important, where we have our French friends are there, with many people from the Nordics, from East Europe. Now with the defense tech and dual use is a very important topic coming, of course. So working together, acting as one ecosystem is crucially important in Europe.
And what would be the steps if you had the power to start this movement? What do you think it needs to be done or should be done for these connections to happen, for Paris, London, and Berlin be connected?
Yeah, so first, the nice thing is I do believe there is already a movement. Yeah, and there's a broader movement. So the story goes like this. In Europe, we had at least 2,000 years of brilliant innovation. Yeah, so there were Da Vinci's flying machine, Marie Curie's radiation therapy, James Watt's steam engine, the printing press, Yeah. So literally, we in Europe engineered the future. Yeah. now we have a world where literally a Liberation Day in the White House a couple of weeks ago can threaten the future of our economy literally overnight, or as well, just as said before, top founders have to fly to the States or Abu Dhabi to get growth capital. What we now need to do as Europeans, we need to reconnect with this innovation lineage, with this deep tech innovation lineage, launching a new kind of deep tech renaissance. And our contribution is we're building some kind of new Medici network. So that's the idea. It's similar like this family in the 15th century. You're bringing together the leading founders, that's courage, bringing investors, capital, and customers in one European network to launch and power Europe's deep tech renaissance.
I love that. It's very romantic on one hand, but it's also very concrete, considering the historical positioning. Very well done. Maybe a specific question about scaling. What are some of the things that Europe still needs to develop in order to scale unicorns?
3 things I would say. First, we need to solve the capitalization topic. You need money to do this. This is the essence of building large tech scale-ups. So often, in particular in deep tech, you need the money. So we need to realize both in the early stage and the late stage, we need more money. Interestingly, this is often not a regulation topic. So it's a mindset topic. So for example, with pension funds who all invest our money for pensions, in the US, there's a tradition to invest a certain part in the future tech. In Europe, particularly Germany, there's a tradition to invest this in a very safe way. Literally give it to Sparkasse, or literally,
put it in the pig.
Put it in the bank, and then you get a little bit of interest. So this, and you can already do this with existing regulation to invest more in the future with our pension money. And now the argument is, but you don't want to kind of gamble with, but you don't. This is one small allocation, and it's proven that this helps us to build tech, deep tech, and impact while building money for our pensions. So that's a good idea. So that's one, this finance thing. 2 is talent. We need more people taking the leap of faith to build companies. And we have still too many people sitting in golden cages. And this is totally understandable. I have as well 2 small children. I was as well, it wasn't easy for me, the decision to found the startup. But we need people who have the courage to venture into the arena and fight. Literally fight to build startups and companies. This requires courage. So we have great talent, but this talent needs to venture into the arena. And the third thing is, I think we should act more collaborative. There is still too often the sentence, what's in it for me? You propose something to me and my immediate reaction is, what's in it for me? In the States, and I don't advocate for copying the States one-to-one, but this is a thing many of the people in Silicon Valley in particular can do well. Often there is the question, okay, how can I support you? Give first.
Yeah, it's important because one thing feeds the other, right? I guess people are not taking the risk to be entrepreneurial because the environment is not friendly, right? If it's always what is in it for me, it's very difficult to feel safe enough to go and say, okay, let me take some risk.
Yeah, and hey, look, it is never safe, but we are living in a continent and in countries with a good social net. We always need to remember this. If it fails, you can always find something else. So that's what you just need to recognize. The downside is often limited if you do this within reason.
And I have a personal question. I don't know if you have the knowledge, but how it works to invest your pension into tech? Is there a system in place? Banks are offering this service. How is that system?
Yeah, the system is that we are all obliged, correctly so, to contribute not privately but publicly to the state for the public pension funds. In particular, it's public money. And there is a certain allocation of this money to different so-called asset classes. So they invest, for example, in a little bit just very secure bonds. Then there might be a little bit tech. There might be real estate. So there's literally a package of different types of investments. And what we are advocating for is that the fraction investing in venture, i.e. tech, increases.
But this is the government itself, not us privately.
Exactly. It's literally the public pension funds. It's one area to do this. Very important now. I do very much believe, in particular when we look back at the last years, we should not wait for the state. And we should not rely on the state. We can do a lot without the state. In particular, when I look now to us entrepreneurs, there is as well a lot of money, family offices, for example, and entrepreneurial families in Europe, who can do more, and we all can do more without the state.
And probably give an example and attract them into the game, right?
Yeah, and exactly, and literally venture first, and literally we said talk about courage. So we need to be courageous first, and then the others will follow.
So this is a call for all the rich families in Europe.
Exactly, yeah.
The deep tech scene needs you.
Exactly.
This is a call
Europe needs you.
Yeah, this is a call for 100 billion additional investment in European tech from literally people who have money for decades. And again, it's a good investment. That's the nice thing.
Yeah.
It helps us in Europe for the purpose and for building Europe while creating good returns.
So stop investing in expensive horses and let's go deep tech. Stop collecting Rolls Royces, you know?
Love it. Martin, you said something earlier about connecting and individual development. So I want to ask you, like, thinking about Berlin as this ecosystem that has, as you said, very ambitious goals of being number one or the go-to place for innovation. How is Berlin connecting with other big ecosystems in Europe, like Paris and London? Are we stuck in this individual development, or are we intertwined?
I would say in Europe, of course, in this time, this is the time that Europe recognizes, and we all recognize, it's the perfect moment to collaborate. When, if not now, should we collaborate? Yeah, with a war in the East, with the US pulling out, it's the perfect time to collaborate. Yeah? So I'm very hopeful, and I'm seeing this more and more, that this is more and more comes to the minds. We do have a certain inward focus of ecosystems. Now we're talking tech ecosystems in Europe. So our French friends have built an amazing ecosystem, extremely successful. And I would argue France still looks a bit too much within France. But there are many movements as well to open this. We have this as well in Germany, that a certain ecosystem, Berlin looks to Berlin, Munich looks to Munich. I would love us to open and really see us as a whole continent. Yeah, and everybody can do something about this. So if you are approached by someone with something new which may be not perfectly fit to your agenda, then to say, hey, how can I support you? Give first.
Could you give like two practical examples of how this integration could happen?
The ecosystem integration, you say? The more we build together initiatives and join funds, join companies, the better. So what you often see is if someone builds a pan-European company, so a fund, for example, a larger, with offices in London, Paris, Berlin, Munich, Sweden, Stockholm, the more you internally within the company you start connecting, because literally you're building a circle around everybody who works there. We are one. Lakestar is like a good example, right? Klaus Hommels built Lakestar for many years. So this is, if I'm in Lakestar, I'm literally feel part of Lakestar. But as well, I'm living in London, Paris, Berlin. So there is a natural cohesion within Europe if you do this. Yeah.
The funds generally, they are private, right? Or you're suggesting like this is just to understand a little bit more on
private.
The ground.
Yeah.
So we're talking about private funds getting together and starting like pan-European funds.
That's the second thing. If you're a bit larger, I'm not talking about literally scale-ups or larger companies. So N26 is a good example as well. N26 has offices in Berlin and Barcelona and other locations. So again, you can literally with a company already support building a joint European ecosystem. Again, I would say, let's not wait for governance. We can do this. We, in the private sector, we entrepreneurs, we can do this.
So like to poke a little bit the finger. So you're saying that, for example, French tech could have a program with Startup Berlin, and that would be the beginning of this connection.
There are many good initiatives in that already. So there's a European Startup Network, ESN, for example, that combines the different startup associations European-wide. So this is, there is a lot to do. As well, the EU Commission, I think we should definitely recognize this, that there is a clear push to work together as Europe. I would encourage us in this time to not think primarily, hey, I'm a Berliner, I'm a German, but rather really European. This old idea, we are one. We have forgotten this a bit because due to the regulation, and Europe does not longer stand for peace, but rather for regulation and bureaucracy. But that we in this world, we're seeing we are a value we have joint values, strong joint values, and I would love us to reconnect with this Europe idea.
Yeah, it's interesting. And Martin, if you have to advise an international VC, what advice you would give to an international VC coming to Berlin?
To invest, to do what? So literally...
To invest, to start their activities here in Berlin.
Hey, so first, I would try to visit places where you found best founders. Yeah, you need to literally try to connect to these best founders. And there are some places where this happens. Again, this is why we're building Deep Tech Momentum, because we want to attract top founders to Berlin. And then, of course, as an investor, you can literally meet the best. There is a lot of activities as well where there are a lot of tourists. Yeah, so if you're in a place where everybody can walk in, it makes this a bit harder. So creating places, curated places, where literally very strong founders and investors, and as well people interested in the ecosystem meet is a powerful idea. So that's certainly. And then I would, of course, suggest open an office in Berlin, and spend money on great founders.
I love.
And maybe specifically, general investors, general investing into software companies is one thing, but investing into deep tech is different. Yeah. Maybe can you elaborate on that first before I ask my next question?
So investing in deep tech, the key challenge is you need to understand the technology. And what we are seeing now is a specialization in the ecosystem happening. So, for example, there is Alpine Space, founded by Bülent Altan, one of the early employees of SpaceX. This man really knows what it takes to build a rocket. It's a brilliant starting point to invest in new space founders. And we're seeing a specialization of people with operational knowledge, operators becoming investors and then investing in a certain area. Life science is another one. Ideally, you have some biotech background, you studied biochemistry and then maybe built a biotech company and then you invest. So this logic, which is very common in the US, almost every investor in the US is an operator. Not everyone, but there's a clear tendency to this. You worked at a company, you understand it, and then you switch sides. This is what is happening here too.
And then coming back to Berlin, what does Berlin do or have to attract specifically deep tech investors?
I think the honest answer is probably not yet enough. Okay. That's the honest answer. But we have the potential to do this. So deep tech founding and companies need great universities. Often you need this, the intellectual property needs to come from somewhere. Yeah? So again, we need to strengthen the scientific basis. And we have, for example, Unite as an initiative in Berlin to do this currently. So there is initiatives doing this. That's one key thing. But for this, you need people as well in the university to think about spin-offs and encouraging people not only to follow the research path, but as well to go out and build companies. And that's not very trivial because some researchers, totally okay, want to be researching and they want to create a Nobel Prize and not a company. A good other path, but we should strengthen this, let's say, third path. I'm not a researcher, I'm not going to a corporate, I'm building something, third path. That's one thing. The second thing, which you always should remember, Berlin is a great and attractive place for talent. I would argue it's probably the only metropolitan city in Germany. So people from abroad love Berlin. It's art, it's music, It's attractive as well for the partners of people who work in tech startups and in deep tech startups. So we should make sure that talent can live here. So there's a question about living space in Berlin, rents, can I get an apartment? This all, of course, connects.
So you're saying that Berlin, on one hand needs to do the work on having more the academia and the mixture between academia and entrepreneurship, and then work a little bit on its conditions to receive all the traffic of people coming.
Which have been great in the past, but in the last years, we all know it got more difficult to find flats in Berlin, it got more expensive. This is a problem for attracting talents. So working on this, ensuring that we build enough flats, the rents are cheap enough and all this, this helps a lot.
Yeah, the thing is, two things are interesting here. One is Fraunhofer Institute have started this, We've interviewed Travis, that is from Silicon Alley. Now it's in Fraunhofer, exactly trying to do this, to help the researchers become entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So there is already a beginning of that mindset and initiative. And the second one is part of the problem. There are many reasons for the renting problem, but one of them is that talent is coming to the city and paying higher rent. So people are putting their rents high. So it's kind of the dog that bites its own tail. Do you have any take on this? We've been talking in the last season a lot about Berlin and this topic. So just like a little parenthesis on this.
Yeah, so first what you said about Max Planck, Fraunhofer, these organizations are on the move, which is really cool. There's a bit of a bashing that didn't do enough in the past. I don't see this. So I'm talking a lot with Fraunhofer, Max Planck, Helmholtz, and all the others. So this in non-university research organizations, they are on the move. And there's great researchers, we have in Berlin as well a lot, and they want this now very actively. And we should just, as Berlin ecosystem as well, we should encourage this.
Yeah, for sure.
The rent thing is, I think the problem is actually simple. We just build more, but we need to accept that we build more. And of course, if you have a flat and a cheap one, your interest in building more is not the highest if there's construction problems, etc. And I think we just need to foster a culture of ownership. We have too many people renting. We need more ownership. Yeah. That's another thing that in Germany should change.
I think we can make a whole episode just
That's
about
a completely different topic. Yeah.
Okay, Martin, so now it's time for questions out of the box.
Yeah.
So we asked our community to, we said to our community that we would have someone with your profile in the show, and they sent us question. And
these are real questions from
real
someone,
questions.
Yeah? Okay, amazing. So I just open a box and we take it from there?
Yeah.
Start with one.
Nice, okay. All right. We go through all of this now.
But it's just one per box.
One per box. Do you know investors who truly care about impact, or is profit still the only real driver? That's a very good question. So there are many investors, and you cannot answer this just for in average. Yeah, we need to be clear. An investor has often money from someone else. Usually, an investor has 2% of own money invested and 98% from someone else. This can be a pension fund, so it's really money from someone we need to pay a pension to someone, or a family, So an investor needs to care about returns, and that's kind of the job profile. If he or she doesn't do it, he or she will not be able to raise another fund. Okay, we need to be, and this is very important to understand this. There are investors of investors, which we are calling limited partners, and you are responsible for delivering returns to them. Now, there is a lot of investors who really deeply care about impact. Yeah, so as well in Berlin, we have a lot of funds who invest in clean tech, in women. So there's a whole range of investors who are called impact investors. I like a lot in investments that totally combine it. As said before, if we are investing in fusion, brilliant impact investing. Imagine what this would make a difference. Yeah, so I would say, to answer this question, I do know actually many investors who very much care about their profits, but as well very much about the impact.
That's good to hear. And it's nice to understand. I didn't have this knowledge that an investor, I always had the idea that investor is someone with money and knows other people with money and is kind of doing, but no, it's a job in itself. Like,
absolutely.
I put a little bit, but my job is to get other people money.
And this is as well.
It's a huge responsibility.
And you need to understand, investors take as well a lot of risk. So they personally often they partly get even loans to put this in their own fund. So there's a lot of risk an investor's taking. It's not only the founders, as well the investor.
Yeah, it's not just the person with a lot of money trying to have fun or make more money. It's a full juggling.
Yeah, and you have as well angels, of course. Angels usually invest their own money. But again, it helps us all. If investors get great returns and the founders, of course, great companies, it just enlarges the pie. Because you have young founders starting, and they often still struggle to get the money. And the more money there is in the ecosystem, the easier it becomes that we build companies. But great question. Should we do one more here?
You can close this one and go for the next one.
why do so many deep tech breakthroughs stay stuck in universities or labs instead of hitting the market? Yeah, okay, very good question. Often the one who invents it does not have the incentive or the mindset to commercialize it. If you start a research path, you're often driven by this idea, I want to create knowledge, and as well, maybe you get a Nobel Prize. So yeah, this is a complete different mindset than I'm going out and build a company. This is why it's so important that we showcase, and you do this in the show, we showcase founders and this path of becoming a founder. By the way, it's far easier these days to do this than 10 years ago, but still, this comes back to the arena and the courage. You have often people who say, hey, look, I invented something and now I want to take it to the world. But it requires then courage. You need to leave a secure research job. A professor, for example, is really a secure job and it's high reputation, high money. You need to leave it and venture into the arena. So the more we can help founders and make these conditions better and as well appreciate the journey, the less we have this problem.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So it's a lack of support somehow, no? And
mindset. It's kind of this.
Well, but if it goes together, right? If you feel you're in a safe place, then you push the boundaries, right? If the context around you is not the friendliest, then you play safe.
Yeah, that's good. Another complete good discussion. It's always risky to go into the arena and build something. This is not a safe space, and you can fail, but it's okay to fail. So then you do something else. So it's totally okay to fail. 10 years ago, in particular in Germany, it was still a problem, failing something. But these days, if you really take it serious and you really try your best, and then you fail, I've seen it with my founders many times, that's okay. Yeah. And actually, if someone is very reflective about the learnings, it's a really great person to then hire or invest in the next company.
For sure. And that's what the Americans do properly.
Totally.
Right? They're not only afraid as they want to crash as fast as possible, right?
Yeah, and as well, we still have, it got substantially better, but still failure is a stigma.
Yeah.
And we need to get away from the stigma.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But so I'm originally from the Balkans, and we're also from different nations, and most of them had this moments where you either lost everything and you rebuilt everything, and that kind of also stays in that culture, right? So
totally.
Are we also talking about that in that direction?
Hey, this is super interesting. So we had a generation in this country after the Second World War who rebuilt Germany. Yeah, these are now I had them in our platform. I'm seeing them. These are 80-year-old people who say, "Hey, I've built this amazing company now, and now I will become an investor with 80." Yeah, and this mindset. Hey, look, I'm still learning with 80. I'm still risking something. That's what we need again. If you are years and years sitting in a secure corporate job, it turns you more risk averse.
Yeah,
that's the problem. So if you're in any golden cage which pays you well, it makes you more risk averse. So reconnecting again with this builder generation as well, you're talking about as well countries who had to do this because there was so much pressure. We talked before about Brazil and Argentina as well.
They have
South
this
America,
entrepreneur,
because it's unstable.
Yeah.
It's not, you cannot rely. So there is something in the culture, and we in Europe, and in particular now with the threat of a large-scale war, this is a time where we need to venture more and take more entrepreneurial risks.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, these places, they don't have a golden cage, right? So everybody's on the run all the time.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Cool.
One more box to go.
The last one.
Let me put
the microphone in, please.
If deep tech is about to change our world, why is it not in mainstream news? When will it be? Is it not in mainstream news? It's a good question. I would say that more and more deep tech comes into mainstream news. Again, I'm talking about ESA Aerospace, the launch of Spectrum. This was in the news. Yeah, so it's a launch of a rocket, first European rocket, in the news. BioNTech, kind of vaccine against COVID, a lot in the news. This is all deep tech, but of course it's not yet so broad. And when will it be? Yeah,
I guess what the person meant, and I think it was Olivia who was telling us this, Olivia, director of Inbox in the Future. She was having a conversation about this season with her hairdresser.
Yeah.
And the hairdresser didn't know that deep tech existed. So I think it's Like now that you said that, I guess that the problem that the question probably addresses that it's the term is never used. It's always the applications that is on the news, but never the term deep tech, right? So it seems that there is a disconnection between this mother term with deep tech and then the real applications.
So I think we need to think more about, in Germany you say Hochtechnologie, high technology. Yeah, so it's literally it's technology, but we don't mean literally the shopping app, but we mean the more difficult tech, self-driving cars, and again the rockets. What we talked about, fusion reactors. This is more to be talked about.
A question comes to mind to kind of complete that one. Is it important to make deep tech as a term more popular?
Not necessary, I think. This is more, we need the applications and the impact of it is important, that we are investing and venturing more into technologies which are hard to get to the market. If you call this deep tech, this is often a technical discussion which even if you talk about technology, right, even that is for many difficult to relate to. But I would say that in particular the applications and the impact on the world is important to communicate.
Yeah, I thought because maybe if people are more familiar with the mother concept and the idea behind, because I guess for the ordinary people, it's all in the same bag, like an app in the phone or a driverless car or the rocket. It's like all technology.
But I would argue that the relevance of technology for progress of society, that theme is extremely important. We do have people who are very critical and see a lot the risks of technology. I think that's more the important thing, that we shape a narrative that technology is a force for good for the future if it is managed well. Yeah. So again, we're seeing this in this more risk-averse cultures, that there is a lot of worry about, for example, what does AI? Are we now approached by killer robots? Is AI taking over the world? These worries we need to take serious, but we should talk about risks and rewards, but in particular about the opportunities.
Yeah, it's interesting.
We can take the boxes away and then have a question where I still want to stay within the deep tech term. So, okay, yes, maybe we don't need that for the general audience, but thinking about investors and now attracting maybe some VC funds that have been used to investing in SaaS companies or more simpler tech solutions, what will it take for them, or what do they need to get better at in order to become investors in deep tech companies?
So more technical knowledge is helpful. So the closer you are to universities and to technical experts, the easier it becomes, of course. And connecting more to this deep tech talent, and that's probably a key thing. I would say from an investor perspective, the trend and this logic that deep tech delivers high returns, and there's good studies, by the way, that deep tech in particular delivers high returns, is already there. So many investors see this. We just need to literally emphasize it and radiate it. Yeah.
And it's possible? Is it something, can a SaaS investor become a deep tech investor?
So there is a gray line anywhere. A SaaS investor invests in B2B. Usually SaaS and almost all SaaS companies now have some kind of AI. And there is the natural intersection between foundational models and infrastructure layer of AI to the B2B SaaS world. So it's actually quite easy to come, relatively easy, at least from going from B2B SaaS, the classical ones, to the whole AI layer. It's of course more difficult than to jump to rockets. Yeah. So, and as we are coming in there's a specialization ongoing. Yeah. So it's not while you invested very broadly in the last 10 years. Yeah. I'm literally doing my shopping app or my self-driving car and maybe a mental health app. These days are almost over. It anyways goes more in specialization. So we just need to encourage the specialization more.
Maybe to take a step back and think about Germany again and the biggest elephant in the room usually, which is bureaucracy. You've been a founder yourself, invested in multiple startups. What are the free tips you could give in navigating German bureaucracy?
Yeah, okay. I had a really good conversation with Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google, last week on this. So Eric said, Europe has chosen not to grow. due to bureaucracy and regulation. I think we need to take this very serious. We have chosen not to grow due to bureaucracy. There are at least, I would say, two things we can do for this. First, startup in a day. Really, really make it easy to build startups. Literally in a day, you can create a startup with very little money. Yeah, it's often still underestimated how effortful it is to build a startup in Germany. Just to launch it, the bureaucracy around it. You need to go to the notary. It takes relatively long. If a founder decides where to found, is it Estonia, is it Germany, is it Ireland, is it Delaware? Often Delaware wins because it's super easy. You can do it in a day. It's not to underestimate it. So that's one. Two, there is a nice term in the coalition agreement of this government, which says Gründerschutzzone. It's a protection area for founders. What we would need is at least 5 years. All new companies have zero regulation, but three things. First, you need to pay your taxes. 2, you need to invest in healthcare for your employees. And 3, in safety. You need to ensure that nobody is harmed. Everything else is gone. Yeah, so literally no other regulation. That would help.
And third?
These are the two things.
These are the two things. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But what would be tips for people that are coming to Berlin or to Germany based on your experience? Like, what can they fast cut because you're gonna give them the tips now?
Yeah. Hey, look. Let's be very clear, and this is nothing. That's not a Berlin thing. This is a Germany, a national, federal level thing. Building a company is a pain. It is like Germany is fighting back. You're building a company and you feel it's not, the country doesn't want you to do this. I've just done it again 6 months ago here in Berlin, and literally you're doing a small angel round. Then you go to a notary, for example. Yeah? Then you have one lawyer sitting on the side of your investor, your lawyer is sitting there, and then there is a notary reading out a document for an hour. So we had 4, 5 adult people in a room read to each other. Yeah, and then everybody is aligned. Our lawyer, your lawyer is aligned, their lawyer is aligned. So you pay the lawyers and you pay the guy who's reading this out. Crazy. Why do we do this? Yeah, so you just need to create, and the European Inc. is an idea. We literally to free this. And the reason is there is a lot of vested interests of people who make money with this. Of course, the notaries like to earn money. So we need a complete restart of this. That's it. Germany, again, back to the ambition level. We are closing the circle. In Germany, that should be the country where it's easiest in Europe to find a company. Easiest. Costs less, least, and it is fastest. That's the ambition level we need.
And how can we get there?
I think someone needs to get a mandate. Yeah. So we just talked about Latin America. We both have some roots in Latin America. There is an Argentinian president who told the Argentinians, I will do things differently. It will be painful, but things will get better. And then he got a mandate. The majority voted for Milei. We need something in Germany that a party has the courage to say, hey, we are now doing big reforms. It will be painful for everyone, but after this it will be massively better. I need to get this mandate. No German party yet had the courage to get the mandate. And I don't want that the far right has the idea to get this mandate. The democratic parties of the middle need to go out and get this mandate. It's unfortunately it's risky. You need courage because you need to tell people, it will hurt. But then it gets better.
And I'm sorry, I'm going to insist. I would love to hear if you have like practical tips
for founders.
To navigate the bureaucratic system. Because what we said here is that the things that we need to put in place to be a better, more startup friendlier, no? But now we need to deal with this situation. What would be your tips for this?
Not lose hope. You need to. If you think about don't think too hard before founding us. Just do it. Because if you overthink it, this is really a problem. If you're overthinking it in terms of should I do it, should I not, okay, pro and cons, you will not do it. Just do it, and then it's a bit of a joke aside. So there are some standards you can leverage. There's German Startup Association. It's a really good institution. I would definitely go to them and ask them for some standard documents. They have it. Connect to the other founders. This is best source of advice. Connecting to all the many groups in Berlin and Germany. So there's, for example, a builders list, but there's many meetups. Just connecting to other founders and ask, how did you do it recently? So, and then, yeah, it's kind of, this is the area where we need the government. Because as a founder, you need to endure it to a certain degree, and it's okay. You can of course manage it. What helps as well, of course, getting good investors in. Yeah? So the better investors you have, they will advise you. So that's as well help. But I would say, work together, look to other founders, and get advice early on.
And I could even add, you can look for Startup Berlin.
Exactly. Yeah.
They kind of support you in all your issues. That sounded like an advertisement, huh? Did you like that? Yeah, no, jokes aside, that's also the goal of this season. Is Startup Berlin is there to support every startup in Berlin, and it's not well known as an institution.
Let me re-emphasize this. We do have a huge asset here in Berlin, and which is Berlin Partner, and I really mean it. So this is a strong. I know Berlin Partner for many years. It's an asset. So this means you can go there, they help you, and there's a real willingness to push entrepreneurship in Berlin. So this is really cool.
Martin, going back also a little bit in what you said about the regulations, and we heard all about the Europe AI Act. Mm-hmm. Can you explain to us what it is and what is its impact in the ecosystem?
Yeah. Hey, look, the European Commission tries to regulate the risks of AI. I think we are literally killing our AI businesses with this. Yeah. So while it is of course important in some areas to regulate AI risks, think about, we don't want anyone to create a bioweapon with advanced large language models. Yeah, clear. The vast majority of this regulation, in my opinion, is simply reducing the probability that we're creating great AI startups in Europe. We often want to become leaders in regulation, but we should become leaders in innovation. Yeah, so and there was a lot of discussion, should we do it or not? Because now we have a consistent framework across Europe, which is an advantage. Companies acting across Europe will have roughly the same regulation, but it's costly. And what you're seeing now is there are now service providers using this regulation to make business with startups and scale-ups. Yeah, so for example, you need to classify now your algorithms. Is it risky or is it not? You need to have a documentation. And there is a lot of fear instilled by service providers that you do this. So if you don't do this, you get punished if you don't buy my services so that I train your people. That's exactly what we not need. Yeah, so while in the US, and you can think about the current US government, what you want, while the US literally is freeing themselves to grow again, in particular on the technology field, we are restricting. So in a time where we need the innovation, this is the time where we need innovation. When again, US pulling out of Europe, so I'm hopeful that the new government, in particular the new commission, has seen this and is changing course. We do see some signs of this, but the AI Act, I think, should literally be just reversed.
But how do you find balance? Because for me, on a global scale, what I see is that US is always the wild kid, and then you need Europe a little bit to counterbalance, so things kind of more or less stay balanced in the Western world. How would we, because AI is threatening a lot of areas, and many areas that are very important for humans, right? For example, I have experience in the music and the visual scene, like all these models being fed by music, and these companies, they're not paying no copyrights to any of the artists, and now the good thing is that the big labels, they're like, oh, this is our money. So then big labels can have a little bit more or a power to fight this, right? So if we just completely get rid of it, it's Wild West, right? Which is basically US. So how can we balance this not getting super wild and going barely on the edge of illegal I personally would say it's completely illegal, and still leaving space for development?
Yeah. And this is a super good question. So, and I would say these are different questions. Of course, we do have a question of copyrights. There are many great artists. People are creating great content, which is then monetized by someone else, which is absolutely no-go. Okay, this is not what we're talking about here. Of course, we need to protect intellectual property and then enabling people who have created it to monetize it. I think this is very, very clear. Zero debate on this. What we're often seeing is that someone in an administration, without a mandate, I would say, is just creating some kind of regulation, which just often means you need to document stuff. You need to write pages of pages. Is this now a risky algorithm or not? Do I need to classify it or not? This does not help an artist to get money. It just creates costs. Yeah, so we have insufficient people, I would say, or perspective in an administration what the regulation actually impacts. So but there are clever ways of thinking about this. So, and for example, in Germany, we have this tendency to ask companies to document stuff. Send me your report, 100 pages, I won't read it, but you need to send it so that I'm actually, the rules are followed. We can as well say, look, there are certain rules, you just need to follow the rules, and you don't need to document anything, but if you break the rule, then we'll come and you likely, then you need to pay. So if you break the rules. So you can as well think about regulation in an intelligent way. You can regulate, but without this huge burden of costs. Yeah, so we have too much, we're creating too much paperwork for everybody. And it's extremely frustrating, not only for the startup founders, but for literally every entrepreneur as well, every self-employed, that you want to make music, or you want to literally cut hairs, or you want to bake stuff, and then you're a doctor and you want to do good for people if I have, but then you need to write down stuff and document. Yeah. That's the problem. So we're creating too much documentation often.
So you think that the balance would be still regulate, but in a smarter way, and even a 100%. More agile way.
Yeah, or in a less costly way. So you're ensuring that you comply. So there are probably two things. We should be not the world leader on strictness of rules. Yeah, but as well we should ensure that people comply with it, but without high costs for them.
Yeah.
And thinking about deep tech, I mean, deep tech also has a lot of, older industries that are highly regulated. Thinking about life science, I mean, you mentioned space very often. Is this momentum in startups or a lot of spin-offs within deep tech helping change that? Is there also a progress in?
You mentioned life science, and now we're talking in Berlin. We have a really strong basis there. We have the Charité, we have a lot of good hospitals, with a good life science cluster here. Biotech, tech, biomedtech, these are often the three areas. So I would say, I hope there is now a bit pressure on this. As we have this, so what we are seeing is there is great research in life science with a lot of great hospitals and research. Good startups come out of this, but then hit a totally underdeveloped investor ecosystem and customer ecosystem. My wish would be that at least to change two things. One is regulation. So, for example, there's a lot about data. We need to enable people in an anonymized way use more patient data to develop treatments. And when you ask patients for, hey, you have a certain type of cancer, would you share your data that we can develop treatments? Everyone says yes. So there's a lot of willingness to do this, but there's this fear of, we need to really be careful with the data. So that's one thing. And the second is we need to encourage more the customers, in particular pharma companies, you had here Bayer as well, to open up themselves more to open innovation. Not only developing stuff and medication internally, but as well collaborate more as earlier with European startups. Because they often look to there's one saying, something like, a US pharma company buys US startups. A UK pharma company buys literally UK companies, and the German ones buy US. So there is a bit of, we should as well try to get more in the life science space, in particular the pharma companies engage more with the European life science ecosystem.
And actually thinking about this moment of exits, or like when companies are being purchased, I was just recently at a conference in Slovenia in Podium, and they were discussing on one of the challenges of the ecosystem in Europe, and that is actually the lack of exits, or what usually happens is, as you just mentioned, they're bought by US companies because our stakeholders don't have this mentality, or they're risk averse and they don't do it. Could you maybe tell us more about that and how to solve it?
Yeah, we do have the big topics
ask
here,
big
which we solve
We
in
solve the
we
world.
solve the world in minutes. One challenge we're having is depth and breadth of capital markets in Europe. If you're doing an IPO, if you want to do an IPO, you often have to go to the US because it's economically so much more attractive, and you can't ask a European scale up to just foregone 100 million because they're patriots. This is not how it works. And because they have as well investors then who gave the money, who are literally need to do returns. So what we need to change in Europe is we need to have a capital market union. So we need to get over national egoisms to create this. But this would mean, for example, it would be totally okay if a German scale-up goes in Paris, it does the IPO in Paris. Yeah, so that's a bit the challenge we're having. So we need to think again as one market and level up the ecosystem. The other thing is there's a mentality thing. If you invest in stocks, as a person, you're buying stocks, ETFs, for example, and not the Bausparvertrag, it helps. Yeah, so there's a lot of mentality in Europe that I invest my money in something secure. If the more we engage with capital markets, buying, again, stocks, the easier it becomes, because then literally a startup has you indirectly as shareholder and you provide more money to the market. So it's easier for me as a founder than to do my IPO, i.e. the initial public offering, going public, to do this in Europe. Yeah, this is a very known problem for several years. There is some movement, for example, Aktienrente. Yeah, the idea of the last government was one of these, strengthening the depth and the breadth of the capital markets. Yeah.
Is there enough late-stage funding for deep tech in Berlin and in Europe?
No, there's not. So a topic we already know for years, but there's some movement. So when you need 50 million or more, it's very still relatively difficult to get this in Europe. Yeah? So if as a founder, if you're building your pre-seed, seed, Series A, Series B, so you usually need, depends a lot on the business model, but often under 50 million, that you can get relatively well in Europe. But if it gets the large checks, 100 million plus, you often need to go to the States or to the Middle East, for example. So this is a known problem. So we have more funds, larger. Again, same topic here, capitalization. The more we can do mindset-wise, yeah, and as well regulation-wise, the easier this will become. Again, we talked about this before. Why not creating 100 billion, having this idea we need to invest together as ecosystem with many rich families, 100 billion additional money into European tech, that would help us.
The future of Europe is solved.
And the future of Europe is solved, exactly.
But there's something super interesting in this data, in this information, is because Europe somehow is famous and was created by traditional families, right?
Yeah.
And they always had hold this pride in being traditional families in Europe, and traditional European families. So it's funny that now kind of the future of something that is completely far from their reality, it's hold in their hands, right? So they have the possibility to kind of fund the most high-tech development of Europe and become again,
Yeah.
Let's make Europe great again, right? Like.
Yeah, and this mentality-wise, a young founder starting now a company is close to someone who has, for example, after the Second World War or even before, founded a company. Siemens has been a startup at one point.
Yeah.
Bosch, same thing. These big companies they have been a startup. Someone, a technical founder, by the way, a deep tech startup. Yeah? So a technical founder with courage and technical knowledge built it. And again, if you in particular talk to families, and these are not managers who have literally made their career in managing large companies, often with not so much personal risk. These are people who took massive risks. And there's a nice reconnect, because this generation of family founders can connect very well to the young founders, because they want to give something back.
And I think this should become a campaign somehow. It seems like very relatable as a storytelling house, right? Like traditional European families, once again, Europe is in your hands, no? Or the future of Europe is in your hand.
And the theme about Renaissance, we had Europe centuries. We had this idea, in particular, the intersections of technology, of art, as well of capital. There happened a lot. In the 15th century in Italy it started. And then we had a really great 500 years. So we have all the abilities. And we had the mindset, so we just need to we don't have to copy, we need to reconnect.
Yeah, totally. Very interesting. Martin, now it's time for the questions out of the book.
Okay.
So we have like a hotel, we have our guest book. Every guest that comes leave us a feedback and a question for the next guest without knowing who will be.
Okay.
So you can open, where is the paper?
So I'm getting a question from the last guest.
Yeah.
Exactly.
On the right side.
What is your why? Nice. So, my why is clear. I'm deeply committed to Europe's technological sovereignty. I very much believe we are far too much dependent on non-European technology. In a world that is no longer a global village. We need to make us far more independent of non-European technologies, particularly investing in deep tech. Yeah, and more on a personal level. My grandfather had to fight in the Second World War. At his deathbed, he was still screaming about his traumas in the Second World War. I don't want my two boys that are 7 and 11 fight another war. That's why I believe there is as well a resilience and dual use and dev tech part. We need to invest in defense technology. This is part of deep tech to prevent another war. I mean, to prepare for a war, to prevent a war. That's because I very much believe this is good for our children. I know one can debate it, but that's my opinion on that side. On the life science side, same thing. I don't want my two boys needing to fly to Dubai to get a heart surgery because we don't have the right surgery capabilities here in Europe. I want that we keep, actually here in Berlin, with brilliant heart surgery capabilities. I want us to keep it here and invest again, life science deep tech for the prosperity and as well quality of life of our children.
Yeah, great wise.
Very strong. Amazing. So we have a section that goes very fast. It's rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So we're just gonna roll it off and the first things that come from mind, come out. Okay, so what did N26 and Techstars teach you about building world-class startups out of Berlin?
Flying with a AAA team. That's probably the one thing. Do you want me to elaborate?
No, if you wish, but you no need to.
Yeah, we discussed it at the beginning. So the magic of a AAA team, if investing in this is such a game changer.
Great. What's the biggest lesson you've learned investing in startups?
Again, investing in superstars and AAA teams. It's not often the technology, it's the team. More specifically, great teams in average markets often struggle, whereas great markets with more average team are better. So this is a bit the interesting and counterintuition. So the real magic happens if you have a great team in a great market. So literally you need to look for both.
Nice. What's one achievement you're proudest in the work you're doing?
Enabling founders. It's super hard to build a company at the beginning, and not only business-wise, but as well emotionally. I'm very convinced that we are a force for progress and a force for good for enabling the courageous founders who fight in the arena to build these companies we need.
Amazing.
What is the most expensive mistake you've made?
Not thinking hard enough about North Star. So, for example, in my first company, I can be very persistent. If I believe in something, I can be very, very persistent. So I banged my head against the same concrete walls for years without making the step back to really think about the North Star. That's, by the way, one reason why I've written this book. So this really there is this notion of, for founders, hustle. Yeah, talk to customers and build your stuff, which is a great thing to do, and you really should do this. But from time to time, you need to stop, reflect what your North Star, and then re-clarify direction.
So you'd say that the mistake was to waste time not reflecting on actions and reactions. And
More on, is this the right market? Is this the right product? How can we get to product market fit? Yeah.
Great. What advice would you give to someone wanting to start a career in investment?
In investment,
Or as an investor? Yeah.
become an operator first. Yeah, so it's very powerful if you have built a startup before, you know it, and then you switch side. And it's often easier to become an investor later, as well in a personal life situation than a founder. I always say first found the company, then the family. That's helpful. So be a founder or operator first before you become an investor.
Great. Perfect. Thank you very much, Martin. So now to close with the grand finale, I want you to invite to become our guest producer. And basically what we're going to do here is produce a beat, electronic beat from scratch, in which you're going to be the music producer.
Okay, cool.
And there's a very big parallel between producing, creating music and a business. You need to have a North Star. You got to find the right talents, in this case, the sounds that will serve your vision. And then a part that I really love is and it's connected to the mistake you said, is to review what you're doing and see if it's fitting and be humble enough to say, oh, this is not serving the purpose. Let's go back and let's redo it. So let's go for it.
Cool.
Okay, headphones, everyone. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to decide the BPM, the beats per minute, the speed of the song. You prefer it slower, faster, or as it is?
A bit faster, maybe?
Faster, you said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Would you like to start with the drums, with the bass line, with chords?
Baseline?
Bass line, okay. I'm going to show you the sounds and then you tell me yes or not.
That's good. Yeah.
You like this one?
Yeah, yeah.
You like this one?
That's very nice, yeah.
Okay, let me record then. Cool, we have the bass. What would be the next element?
The voice.
You want to put some voice in it?
I want you to put some voice in.
No, let's do it together then. Let me put my microphone and we both gonna do it something.
Build a sky.
Nice, we have it.
Build a sky. Build a sky.
Amazing. Next element.
What is the next? What kind of what
Well,
options do we have?
We can put drums, which is...
Drums is good.
Yeah, drums is good, right? Again, you tell me the sounds you like it.
Last one, maybe? The last, yeah.
Yeah, this one? Cool.
Yeah.
I love it. It's very raw. Like. It's too much or it's okay? Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You like this?
This works. Yeah, nice.
Cool. Maybe something like it. Which one of the two?
The second. Second.
The second, okay. Nice. Which other element would you bring?
What other options do we have?
We could put some chords. We could bring some melody.
Some melody. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so now the volume is in its place because it was too loud.
Bildersky. Bildersky. Bildersky.
Perfect,
Nice,
Martin. We have the basis. So now it's time for you to grab that box. Bring it up here. You choose one element for you and pass the box.
Okay.
You went simple. You didn't take risk. Oh, wow, yeah. By the way, you're inaugurating our brand new shakers. It's unboxing shaker.
It's the unboxing shaker?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, okay, nice.
And you can take with you home. So I got the deep tech set up.
Got the builder's guide,
Yeah.
obviously.
Oh, nice.
You want to change?
I can change, yeah, why not?
So you hold, like this is like a violin thing. So you hold the tool and
Bowl.
pass the bowl. Yeah, nice. Yeah, cool.
Bildersky. Bildersky.
Yeah.
Nice one. Very well done. Good job, Martin.
Very good, Martin.
Thank you, Diego, for leading us.
And once more, like the you see the deep personality of the person coming out through the
The
music.
soundtrack, yes. Martin, thank you so much, first of all, for taking your time, for participating. I'm walking away with a big desire to stand up with a big ambition and go for it with big learnings such as follow the North Star, get the AAA team, but above all, with the hope we as Europe can rise, can stand independently, and can lead the future by connecting to our roots through the Renaissance. Martin, thank you so much for unboxing the future with us.
Big pleasure. Thanks for letting me in your box.
Thank you very much, Martin. It was a big pleasure.
Likewise, thank you.
See you in the next episode.
Bye.
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 Great. Thank you, Martin. Very nice.
These instruments.
Yeah,
I mean, you were really nice, and we kind of
No, but with him, you never know. You know, I never know what's in the box, and I never know what to do with it.
different,
Yes, it's
Yeah,
always
every
different.
episode is different.
And I have to say, out of everything, this one looked the most obvious, and that's why I took it. But damn.
Well, but you said mine is nice, but I'm always playing an object like everyone else. Like I just have the two hats. One is like
great. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
it's not an unfair game.
No, you're doing this amazing. It's really cool. It's fun.
Yeah.
Thank you. We appreciate